Oh, happy Thursday, everybody. Oh, it's been a great week. The heat is on down here in New Orleans. I can tell you that. We got our wet wool blanket going with humidity. Oh, but you stick around. We have a great show tonight. I tell you what, she is a finalist for the National Indie Excellence Awards. It's just some great work, myths, fairy tales. You're gonna love it, so you're gonna want to stick around. A little bit of housekeeping, as always. Please check our links in the description if you want to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. A cheap cup of coffee, all it takes at our Buy Me a Coffee link. And as always, check our merch page. Great swag and a great way to support the show. Well, I tell you what, this is going to be a fantastic show. Please help me welcome to the stage a wonderful author and educator, Molly Lazer. Oh, Molly, I'm so glad you could finally join us here on Cocktails with Cab. Been looking forward to meeting you. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. I was so glad you had a chance to come on. Where are you coming to us from?
So I'm right outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania.
Philly. Yeah,
Yep.
I love that place. I had a great time last time I was there.
Nice.
They escorted me to the border of Pennsylvania, though. I think, no. But geez and Pete's, no, I tell you, Molly, I great admire your work. You had some, your early work, Owl Eyes, a great young adult novel. And it's just, I wanted to have you on just to chit chat with you. But I tell you what, I'd love to let the viewers know about the creators and get to know them. And I just find it important, that personality comes through in the work, I think, so please tell everybody about yourself and how you arrived to be this fantastic author I love.
Oh boy. Okay. So I am originally from Connecticut. But I came to Philadelphia for college at the University of Pennsylvania, and that's where I started. Actually, the idea for Owl Eyes kind of sprung up in college, but since then I applied to 10 graduate schools at the end of my pen career, having written the first draft of Owl Eyes, and got rejected from 10 MFA programs for creative writing, all 10. In retrospect, a lot of mistakes were made. And so I said, oh no, what am I going to do with my life now? And I was very much into comic books, still am. I said, okay, I want to work for Marvel. And it turned out I had connections within the comic book industry that I didn't know I had. And within a few months, was able to get hired at Marvel. So I spent 4 years working at Marvel as an assistant and then an associate editor. You can see some of my books up there on the screen.
Yeah.
Before deciding that I wanted to go back to school. And so I left Marvel in 2008 to get a degree, a master's in science and education in reading, writing, and literacy, became a reading specialist, and at some point along the way remembered that I always wanted to be a teacher, which is something I just kind of forgot about while in college and afterwards. And so for the last 15 years have been teaching high school.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I teach reading primarily to students with learning disabilities, and I teach drama. And I also, for the last 7 years, have been teaching creative writing at the high school where I teach.
Oh, wow.
So.
Yeah, no, that's amazing though. Yeah. And I tell you, you had listening to some of your early history, it was, you kind of went diverse. It was,
Yes.
the comics, when you got into the comics,
Mhm.
you were editor there. How is that? Not a lot of people know about the comics industry as you know, a, a literature based industry
Yeah.
somewhat,
So
depending
do you
on
mean
what
like
you're after.
so are you asking like what is the editor's job, or are you asking?
Yeah, and how you got into it, and just that whole, not a lot of people know about the
Yeah.
industry.
So when I was, a senior in college, I was reading a lot more comics, and I was becoming a lot more interested in how they were made. Just really interested in like the art and the text and how it worked together, and where speech balloons were placed, and how the art told the story. Um, and I was reading pretty diverse stuff at that point. And when I got to Marvel, I was lucky to be able to work in the office of Tom Brevoort, who is a longtime editor at Marvel, and he really provided a lot of my training, just learning, how does the comic book come together, and what are the different players in making that happen. The editor's role in putting the comics together varies from comic to comic depending on what creators you're working with, but the editor does have some hand in kind of guiding the story, not necessarily crafting the story because that's the writer's job, but providing input in the same way, the editor of a novel would. But yeah, providing input, what's working, what's not, where's the story going. And then sometimes the editor will also like pull together creative teams and say, oh, I want to make a book with this character. Let's get these authors to pitch on it and see what we like. I wasn't, as an assistant and then an associate editor, I wasn't at that level. I was doing more the day-to-day work with the comics. So being in touch with writers about getting the scripts, sending them to the artists, sending the pencils to the inker, getting the inks, sending them out to the letterer and colorist, making notes on the coloring and on the lettering, and then making sure everything comes together right in production and then gets out the door in time.
Right.
So, and
That's
when you're doing that with like 20, 25 books a month, it's a lot.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's, one of the things that fascinated me about that industry too, is
Mhm.
just, from learning, and, have had interviews in the past with some reviewers and
Mhm.
things of that nature, and it's just how intensive that industry is, because I think a lot of people don't realize that it is, the art, just like you said, the art telling the story and
Mhm.
coming together. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
fascinating stuff. I tell you what. And then, of course, your books, when you wrote Owl Eyes and finally
Mhm.
got it out the door in
Yeah.
2018, I believe that was.
26.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do believe you got some quite a few kudos on it, I believe.
So, yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little about Owl Eyes if you could, because
Sure. So Owl Eyes came out of my interest, we might say obsession with fairy tales, and but like the parts of fairy tales that don't work for me. So, as a disillusioned college student, I was very bothered by many elements of Cinderella,
you mean like
including.
the prince with the foot fetish? No.
Well, no, my issue with the okay, no, because that was part of it. So number one, so why does the shoe fit only her? That realistically, that's not realistic, and I know it's not supposed to be, but in my book, I actually was seeking to find a way to explain that. Like, really, why does a shoe fit only her? And then also, like, why does she want the prince other than the fact that he's the prince? And then finally, if he is not dead, drunk, or otherwise incapacitated, as he's not in many versions of the story, why does her father allow her to be a servant in his household? Um,
Uh,
so these are like issues I was dealing with, and it was really like a kind of a thought experiment to write this novel. It actually started off as a performance piece in a performance art class that I took, a 10-minute long solo performance piece, and a lot of the characters from the book and the entire ending of the book actually sprung out from that performance piece. And from there, I drafted it into a first much shorter draft of the novel, and then spent the next, so that would have been 2003, 2004 when I finished. So then spent the next like 14 years rewriting it. And then, yeah. So, and then just kind of like ironing out the elements that weren't working. And then I used it as my MFA thesis. And was lucky to be able to work with Carmen Maria Machado, who wrote, who is National Book Award finalist. And I presented my newly rewritten thesis to her, and I was like, here at the beginning of the thesis process. And she's like, great, rewrite it. And I was like, no, but she was right. I rewrote it using kind of like her comments as a guideline, and finally worked out the ending in a way that was satisfying to me. And then a few years later, it got published. So
yeah, and I tell you, it sounds like you were able to work out all the kinks finally very well, because I mean, you were a finalist for the National Indie Excellence Awards with the book, and just congratulations on that. Heck, you had what else you had? The Purple Dragonfly Book Awards. You had a mention. Yeah, Dante Rossetti Award. A lot of kudos.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of kudos. But no, well, that's fascinating. Well, Molly, I'll tell you what, if you can hang on 1 second, I have to go refill my cocktail. I can't have a cocktails with Cav without a cocktail. And then when we come back from the quick break, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get into Molly's other work and just a fascinating collection of short stories, and a short novella, I believe, is also in it. And we'll talk about that when we get back.
Sounds good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, look, just a real quick mid-roll break, real fast, just to remind you to please check the top of my X profile for my Linktree link, or you can visit it scrolling right above you, Linktree/Reed Kavanaugh. And go subscribe for free to my Linktree. It has all the information you need, so you'll never miss a great Cocktails with Cav offering. It's packed full of information, has, of course, the latest Cocktails with Cav, great interview episode, as well as our newest show, Cocktails with Cav After Hours Live. That's where myself and the producer, Drunk Doug, unwind from all this content creation over some cocktails and discuss the hottest topics of the day. You'll have a lot of fun with that show. It's fun. And look, it also has the links to our Spotify audio-only version of our shows, as well as all the links you'll need to support the show and all our other social media links, so you can hang out where you tend to be. So please, again, check our Linktree link at the top of my X profile, or it's right above you here, Reed Kavanaugh. Go ahead and subscribe for free. You can't miss it. Oh, Molly, thanks so much for sticking with me. I'm telling you, I needed to refill. It's been a long week.
No, I get it.
How's your week been going anyway?
It's been long. I mean, I'm a teacher and we're close to the end of the school year, so like it's long.
You know, that's true.
Long. Yeah.
Do your students, and you said you teach. You teached. My English teacher learned me well. She. But you said you taught high school. Do your students get a chance to look at your work and kind of? I was just interested. Not that, not like college professors that force you to buy their book, but.
So I have a copy of Owl Eyes in my classroom library. I'm not like shoving it in their faces, but it is there if they happen to find it and are interested. I've had like 1 or 2 students check it out. I do have a few students, like every so often a student would be like, oh, I read your book. I'm like, oh, what? Or like I had a parent who saw in in my bio in the program I direct the play at the high school as well. And in my bio, it's like, oh, and Molly Lazer is the author of 2 books. And a parent was like, some parent who I didn't even know, like not a parent of a student in the play, was like, yes, email me. I bought your books. I was like, oh, I don't know who you are, but thank you. And I do sometimes show my creative writing students some of my work, including I use we do what I call an opening line workshop for their short stories, where they're asked to write 8 different opening lines for their short stories that fit into different like qualifications. And I did the exercise as well. And so I show them my opening lines for my ill-fated second novel, which, as I explained to them, died in a horrible USB drive accident. After I had already decided to scrap it, but even if I wanted to go back to it, it's gone.
Oh,
It was a tragedy. Yeah.
But that's got to be gratifying. I know I talk with do a lot of talking with my daughters who are older now. Heck, I'm old, so they're older. They're in their late 20s, but just trying to stay in touch with the younger generation and how they feel about reading and literature, and because it is just such, I've especially with social media today and those kinds of things. What do you find teaching high school? I mean, obviously you come in a lot more contact with that age group than most of us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always surprised at how much they actually do read.
Really?
Like right now, they keep making announcements because there were over 100 books overdue at the school library, because kids have been taking them out, and they're regulars in there. And even my reading students, again, they have learning disabilities, so they struggle with reading, but they do their 10 minutes of independent reading per class period, and they will fight over the books. I do like 2 weeks worth of book talks of many different books in the classroom library, and they will like fight over them when it's time to choose books.
Wow. Well, that's good to hear, though. Yeah. And I mean, definitely good to hear, because I think most people nowadays are under the impression that, the younger generation has the attention span of an ice cube, and
right. I mean, they do read a lot of graphic novels, but like I'm the biggest proponent of graphic novels. You could see my shelves. I have like bookcases full of graphic novels. I mean, they read a wide variety of things, which and sometimes the stuff they have surprises me.
Wow. Well, that's great to hear. Like I said, because I really did. I think I was worried about that, for literature falling through the wayside, especially what it brings to the table, and
but I think that
to change minds and hearts.
Well, I think that's happening even with adults to an extent. Like I catalog my all the books I've read in a given year on Facebook at the end of the calendar year. And a couple of years ago, I only read 4 novels. And when I saw the list, I read a lot more graphic novels, but I only read 4 novels. And I saw the list, and I was horrified that, like, how did I only read 4 novels over the course of the year? And so the next year I read like 8, and then last year I read 12, and this year I'm on track to do around that number, and they're pretty lengthy. So, I think it's hard to make time for reading.
Right.
I think.
Make it. That's ladies and gentlemen, make it. No,
yes. I read on the treadmill at the gym.
When I'm taking my lady bath, I like to read a chapter or two.
Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, the treadmill on the gym is where I get most of my reading done.
No.
I mean,
no
I do
kidding.
not run, but I walk and I read. So
You'll squeeze it in.
Yeah.
But and before, I definitely wanted to talk about too. I put you on the spot because I love talking about your work. I wanted to have you on, but I wanted to talk about Lentils and Black Rice.
Yeah.
Your collection of short stories and tell us about that too, because it also got some great kudos and
Yeah, thank you. Lentils and Black Rice is a collection of it's been a bit. It's Yeah, 10 stories and one novelette. And so the stories are mostly flash length, some a teeny bit longer, and then there's the novelette. And they are all based on, again, my thing with fairy tales and mythology and the Bible in there as well. So basically just a lot of twists and mashups of different stories. So I mash up Hansel and Gretel with Little Red Riding Hood. And hold on, let me actually pull this open to tell you because there's a lot. Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, Hesiod's Theogony, Sole Lunae Italia by Giambattista Basile, Sleeping Beauty by Charles Perrault, Little Red Cap with the Pied Piper, and also cannibalism. There's a lot of cannibalism in this book. I had to make sure not to put the I had to make sure not to put the cannibal stories like right next to each other. So yeah, it's a lot of like putting stories together in ways that make sense to me, and just kind of exploring the characters, especially the female characters.
I tell you, yeah, that was a nice veer into cannibalism from Hansel and Gretel. No,
there's a lot of cannibalism in fairy tales.
Well, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I tell you what, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I know also, and ladies and gentlemen, what I was showing on the screen was actually Molly's website, mollylazer.com. And of course, the links will be in the description of the show as well. But yeah, I highly recommend you go check it out. She even has a short stories tab that includes some of the short stories and where they were published in the various literature magazines and things of that nature as well. So yeah, I definitely recommend everybody check her website out in the links for sure. But yeah, do you have anything else going on in the works that we know? A little scoop for Cocktails with Cav? Like
I wish
Molly Lazer work coming out?
Yeah, I wish I did. So I have twin sons who are turning 8 in 2 days, and so they take up a lot of my time. Plus, I do a lot of theater, both directing and performing, and the teaching of the creative writing. So most of my writing time is spent commenting on my students' work. I have sometimes up to 60 students a semester. We're a very productive class. So there's a lot. I spend most of my writing time just reading other people's work and commenting on it at this point.
Well, you don't comment on the poor high school students' work like a regular editor, right?
Oh no, I tear their stuff to shreds.
Oh, okay.
I give them the same style of critique that I was required to give in graduate school in my MFA program, because I did go back and get that MFA eventually. But yeah, no, it's I couch it in nice language, but no, I do give them very long and involved critiques, which often they ignore, but sometimes they listen to. So
right, and hey, that's it. Prep them for the real world.
Yes.
Nobody, yeah, just like in everything else, you're not going to get a participation trophy sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, Molly, I'm telling you what, I am so glad you had an opportunity to break away from your busy life, obviously, with your young twins and teaching and theater. But I'm so, like I said, just honored to have you on and glad you could take a few minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gotten a chance to know Molly on X, great person to interact with, fun. She's at Molly Lazer. Her screen name's right there under her video for you. Please go give her a follow on X. And her website link will also be in the descriptions of the show. So Molly, I tell you what, I'm just glad you were here.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to do this. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And I'll tell you what, good luck with everything. Wish the kids the best. Keep them reading.
Thank you. Yes.
Because that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let them know, tell them to stay away from this stuff. It's no good. Molly, cheers.
Cheers.